Question number 3 on the reading portion of College Board's Test 5. It can reasonably be inferred that Irma, the waitress, thinks Limey is through eating because, so let's remember that part of the story. As always, anytime they quote something, read a little bit before and a little bit after for context. When Limey put down his fork and began to count them off, so I guess he's counting off the delegates of this conference, one by one on the fingers of his left hand, so I guess he had to put down his fork to do this. The waitress, whose name was Irma, thought he was through eating, so he thought he was finished eating, and tried to take his plate away. He stopped her, so he wasn't done. It can reasonably be inferred. So inferred means what, based on what was said, what's a logically consistent thought that follows from this? It can be inferred. We said something, what is not being said that can be logically concluded based on the facts that we know? That the waitress thinks he's through eating because, well, didn't he put his fork down in order to count the delegates? And that's what I remember. It's like when he put his fork down, Irma thought he was through eating. It's almost like a chain of events. When he put his fork down, Irma thought he was done eating and tried to take his plate away. He said no. It can reasonably infer that Irma thinks Limey is through eating because A, he had begun reading his book. That's not true. He began reading his book right here when it's propped up against the sugar bowl and the ketchup. So he's reading while eating. I think that they talk about how he's managing, when he's reading, his right hand managed again and again to bring food up to his mouth. So he's reading way before this event with Irma happens. So it can't be A, because his plate is empty. We have no indication that his plate is empty. We don't know that his plate was empty ever. It can reasonably infer that Irma, the waitress, thinks Limey is through eating. And furthermore, it doesn't say anything about the plate being empty anywhere in the context of line 37. Because, C, he is no longer holding his fork. Yes, I like that a lot. I like this a lot because it directly says exactly that. That if we read, when Limey put down his fork in order to count the members, the waitress tried to take his plate away. He stopped her. He asked her to clear the table. We can't infer that he asked her to do anything. If anything, he asked her to do nothing because she does something and he says, stop, don't do it. So clearly he didn't want that to happen. The answer number 3, it's pretty straightforward, is going to be C.